We often tell ourselves we'll begin when we're ready, when the timing is perfect, when we have more confidence, more knowledge, more resources. But ready is a moving target, one we never seem to catch. It's a comfortable lie we repeat to justify staying in the shadows. The truth is, there's no such thing as the perfect moment. There's only now. The present is messy, uncertain, full of doubts and questions. But it's also the only place where change begins. Think about how many dreams have died waiting for the right time. How many books unwritten, businesses unbuilt, talents left unexplored. All because someone believed they weren't good enough yet. They waited to be great before starting. And that's the trap. You think greatness is the requirement, that you need to be talented, courageous, or flawless to take the first step. But in reality, it's the starting that shapes the greatness, not the other way around. You don't need to be extraordinary to begin. You need only to begin to one day become extraordinary. Greatness isn't a gift, it's a journey. And the journey starts in uncertainty, not mastery. In discomfort, not ease. In fear, not fearlessness. It starts when you show up, unpolished, unsure, and full of questions, but willing. There's a young woman who dreamed of becoming a speaker. She admired TED Talks, powerful voices on podcasts, and the storytellers who moved people to tears. But she stuttered. She hated her voice. She was terrified of being judged. So she waited. She told herself she needed more practice, a better microphone, maybe voice lessons. Years passed. Nothing changed. Until one day, she recorded a shaky 2-minute voice note and posted it. It wasn't perfect. She stumbled over her words. Her voice cracked, but the message resonated. People listened, not because it was flawless, but because it was honest. That one imperfect act was the beginning. Today, she speaks to thousands. But her journey didn't start with confidence. It started with courage. This is the part most people miss. We assume the people we admire were born with something we lack, that their courage came first, that they woke up knowing what to do. But that's a lie. The truth is they were just as scared, just as unsure. The only difference is they started anyway. Action breeds clarity. Action builds courage. Action creates momentum. Waiting doesn't remove fear. Starting does. Every person you look up to once stood where you are now, full of hesitation, paralyzed by what-ifs, wondering if they were too late, too old, too young, too average. But they took one small step forward, and that made all the difference. You don't have to take a giant leap. You don't need a 10-year plan. You don't need to see the entire path. You just need to take one step, one move, one imperfect beginning. Because the moment you do, you transform. You go from thinking to doing, from hoping to building, from fear to growth. There's an old saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. That applies to your dream, your goals, your voice. Stop mourning the time you think you lost. Start using the time you still have. You may not feel ready. You may not have it all figured out, but you have today. And that's enough. You are enough. Read this carefully. Your first attempt doesn't need to be flawless. It needs to be real, genuine, honest. Let your beginning be awkward. Let it be shaky, but let it happen. There is no growth without discomfort, no success without risk, no courage without fear. That uneasy feeling in your chest? That's your signal not to stop but to begin. The path of greatness is not paved with perfection. It's filled with stumbles, corrections, detours, and doubt, but also with breakthroughs, self-discovery, and triumph. The difference between those who make it and those who don't isn't talent. It's not luck. It's the decision to begin. You don't owe the world a masterpiece. You owe yourself a chance to try, a chance to see what happens if you don't quit on yourself before you even start. So here's what I want you to do. Pause for a moment. Take a breath. Feel your heart beating. That's your proof that you're alive, capable, and already carrying everything you need. The fear won't vanish, but it will shrink each time you act anyway. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for perfection. Don't wait until the fear is gone. If the dream matters, then today matters. Say it out loud. I don't need to be great to start. Say it again. But I must start to become great. Let those words burn into your mind. Let them guide your steps. Because one day you'll look back, and you won't remember the fear. You'll remember the moment you stood up anyway. That was the beginning, and it changed everything. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. There's another story, one that might sound familiar. A man in his late 30s, stuck in a job he hated, dreamed for years about becoming a writer. He read books, watched interviews, and even took notes on what he'd write someday. But he never wrote a single page. Why? Because he was convinced that real writers had something magical, some spark he lacked. That unless his first story was brilliant, it would prove he didn't have what it takes. So he waited. 10 years passed. The dream stayed a dream. One day, at the lowest point of frustration, he decided to write one page. Just one. It was clumsy. He hated most of it. But for the first time in a decade, he felt alive. That page turned into 10. 10 turned into 100. That man now has 5 published books. All because he stopped trying to be perfect and simply began. We all carry silent dreams. Some are buried deep under layers of doubt and shame. But they don't die. They whisper. And the longer we ignore them, the louder the regret becomes. Starting isn't just about action, it's about healing. About reclaiming belief in yourself. It's declaring, I'm no longer willing to betray the part of me that wants more. You are not too late. You are not too small. You are not too broken. You are just one decision away from momentum. One choice away from becoming the kind of person who begins. Part 2. Fear has many faces. Fear is not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. A whisper in the back of your mind. A tightening in your chest. A subtle voice that says, not now, or maybe later, or worse. Who do you think you are? It wears many faces, and it's smarter than we think. It doesn't always scream, convinces, persuades, justifies. It tells stories that sound like logic but are soaked in insecurity. Let's name some of its faces. The fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of being seen starting from the bottom, the fear of wasting time, the fear of looking stupid, the fear of being judged, the fear that maybe, just maybe, you don't have what it takes. These are not rare fears. They are nearly universal. But here's what most people never realize. Fear does not disappear with time. Fear loses power only when confronted, when named, when challenged, when acted upon. You can't outthink fear. You can't over-research your way around it. The only proven antidote to fear is movement. Fear feeds on hesitation. It grows in silence, but it dies in motion. That's the secret. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who dreamed of becoming a musician. He wrote songs in private for years, but never shared a single one. His fear told him his voice wasn't good enough, that he was too old to start, that no one would care. He listened to that voice for over a decade. One day, on a dare from a friend, he uploaded one rough song to YouTube. He cringed when he hit publish. He expected ridicule, silence, but something strange happened. People listened. Some even cried. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. That one act, shaky and scared, led to a second song, then a third, then an album, and eventually a fan base. Not because he was fearless, but because he moved anyway. The second face of fear is the fear of success. Sounds strange, doesn't it? But success brings pressure, expectation, responsibility. What if I get what I want, and then lose it? What if I can't live up to the image people create? So we sabotage ourselves. We delay. We underplay our gifts. We play small, not because we don't dream big, but because we're scared we might actually get there. The third face is comparison. You look online and see people ahead. Younger, faster, richer, more talented. And fear whispers, you'll never catch up. So you don't even try. You scroll instead of starting. You observe instead of doing. But comparison is a thief of both joy and momentum. No one starts in the same place. No one runs the same race. Your only competition is who you were yesterday. Another face, perfectionism. It wears a mask of excellence, but it's rooted in fear. The fear of not being enough unless everything is flawless. So you tweak endlessly. You delay. You revise instead of release. You rewrite instead of publish. But perfection is a moving goalpost. It's the enemy of done. It's the graveyard of progress. So how do we fight these faces? Not by eliminating fear, but by building courage. And courage is a muscle. You strengthen it by doing hard things while still feeling scared. You train it daily, by speaking when your voice shakes, by sharing when your hands tremble, by stepping forward when your knees wobble. Courage isn't loud. It's not always heroic. Sometimes it's just showing up when you'd rather hide. You see, every fear you face makes the next one smaller. Every time you act while afraid, you remind your brain that fear doesn't get to drive, can sit in the back seat, can talk all it wants, but you're the one holding the wheel. Let me be clear. Courage doesn't mean the fear is gone. It means the fear no longer controls you. Now let's get practical. Make a fear list. Write down everything you're afraid of when it comes to your dream. Then ask, what's the worst that could happen? Will you die? Go broke? Lose everyone? Probably not. Most likely, the worst case is discomfort, embarrassment, maybe a bit of rejection. But the best case? Growth, impact, fulfillment, freedom, a life that actually feels like yours. When you write out the cost of inaction, it often becomes more terrifying than the fear of action. Because staying stuck hurts. Regret is louder than fear. And 10 years from now, you'll wish you had started today. You may not silence every fear, but you can choose which voice you obey. Your future isn't waiting for you to feel brave. It's waiting for you to act while afraid. You don't have to be fearless to move forward. You just have to be willing. Willing to start messy. Willing to look awkward. Willing to fail forward. Because fear loses its grip the moment you step. And that step, no matter how small, is your declaration. I will not be ruled by fear. I will walk with it, but I will not bow to it. You are not weak for being scared. You are brave because you keep going anyway. There's a story of a young boy who was terrified of swimming. Not because he couldn't float, but because once, as a child, he slipped and nearly drowned. That memory haunted him. Every time he saw water, he panicked. But deep down, he wanted to swim. He wanted to run into the ocean like the other kids. So one day, after years of fear, he walked to the shallow end of a pool, knelt down, and just sat with his feet in the water. He did nothing else. The next day, he went a little deeper, and then a little deeper. A week later, he was laughing and splashing. What broke the fear wasn't a dramatic leap. It was one small act of willingness, repeated daily. That's how fear works. It's big until you get closer. It screams until you stare it down. Then you realize it's not a monster. It's a mirror, reflecting the places you have room to grow. If you've been letting fear lead your life, you're not alone. But you don't have to let it lead tomorrow. Fear may be present, but so is your strength. So is your hope. So is your will. Every dream, every goal, every future worth living begins with one brave moment. This is that moment. Let this be your choice. To feel fear and move anyway. To stop waiting and start. Not because it's easy, but because it matters. You don't need the fear to vanish. You just need the fire inside you to burn brighter than the doubt. That fire is there, right now, waiting for you to say yes. Part 3. Action breaks fear. There's a powerful truth most people overlook. Fear doesn't leave before action. It leaves because of it. You can't wait your way into confidence. You have to move your way into it. That first step is not just symbolic. It's transformational. It changes the chemistry of your body, the wiring of your brain. You shift from passive to active, from victim to creator, from wishing to doing. Too many people wait for motivation. They sit and scroll, hoping for that one quote, that one video, that one spark that will finally push them into motion. But motivation is a feeling, and feelings are fickle. You cannot build a legacy on something that disappears when you're tired. But action builds itself. One small movement creates momentum. One email, one video, one chapter, one rep. That's how greatness is built. Not in a single leap, but in hundreds of unglamorous, unseen, consistent steps. There's a story of a man named Caleb. For years, he told everyone he wanted to get in shape. He followed fitness influencers, bought gym gear, researched supplements, but he never went to the gym. Until one day, someone asked him, "What's the smallest step you're willing to take today?" And he said, "I guess I could just put on my gym shoes." That's what he did. Nothing else. The next day, he wore the shoes again and walked outside. Day 3, he walked to the gym. Didn't go in. Just stood there. By the end of the week, he stepped inside. Did one exercise. No one noticed. No one cared. But to him, it was a revolution. In 6 months, he had lost weight, gained strength, and built a discipline he'd never known before. That first step didn't feel important, but it changed everything. Why does this matter? Because action breaks fear through exposure. The more you expose yourself to what scares you, the less power it has. You don't become fearless. You become familiar. The unknown becomes known. And what once paralyzed you becomes part of your rhythm. Action is the cure for overthinking. When you're stuck in your head, you live in a world of what-ifs. You spiral. You hesitate. You start and stop 100 times. But when you take action, your brain has to respond. Your body follows. You gather data. You get feedback. You improve. Thinking can't give you that. Action can. Here's something to remember. You don't need to take a massive step. You don't need to go viral. You just need to do something real. Write one paragraph. Record one clip. Send one message. Publish one post. Build the muscle of showing up. People admire consistency more than brilliance. The world doesn't reward the perfect. It rewards the persistent. Every small action chips away at the wall of fear. It builds trust with yourself. It's proof that you're no longer just thinking about your dream. You're walking it. Do you know the difference between the people who talk about success and those who achieve it? Execution. It's not talent. It's not even timing. It's follow-through. It's doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. There's a woman named Tara who dreamed of starting a podcast. She had the equipment, the ideas, the stories, but she didn't feel ready. So she made a deal with herself, record 1 minute a day. Not publish, just record. She did it for 30 days, then 60. By the 90th day, she had enough material to launch her first season. That podcast now has thousands of listeners. Not because she felt brave, but because she built momentum. Let that sink in. Progress isn't about leaps. It's about rhythm, forward motion, tiny acts repeated with belief. You want a different life? Don't search for a breakthrough. Start with a behavior. There will be days when you don't want to show up. When the fear comes back. When the doubts get loud. That's when action matters most. Because discipline is doing it even when it's hard. Even when no one is watching. Especially then. When you move, you prove to yourself that you're capable. You show the part of you that's scared. I'm still here. I'm still going. You turn fear into fuel. Doubt into data. Resistance into resilience. You don't need perfect conditions. You need purposeful movement. So ask yourself, what can I do today that's real? That's small? That's simple but meaningful? Can you press record? Can you send that message? Can you outline the idea? Can you take one step closer to the life you want? That step doesn't need to be public. It doesn't need to be shared. It just needs to be taken. Because every time you move, you win. Every time you act, you grow. And every time you begin again, you get stronger. You don't have to believe in yourself fully. You just need to act like someone who doesn't quit. And eventually, belief will catch up. You don't have to be great to start, but you must start to become great. And the start is just one small, powerful act away. There's a story from history that illustrates this perfectly. A young man named James was born into poverty. No formal education, no connections, but he had a dream to become a lawyer. People laughed. His grammar was poor. His clothes were ragged. He had nothing going for him except one thing: he showed up. Every day, he read books under candlelight. He borrowed materials. He studied relentlessly. Took him years longer than others. He failed. He was mocked, but he kept going. That boy became Abraham Lincoln. The most powerful step he ever took wasn't winning an election. It was deciding to read one more page when no one believed in him. That's the power of action. What if your small action today becomes the seed of someone else's hope? What if your quiet effort today echoes into someone else's transformation tomorrow? That's the ripple effect of courage. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need the perfect plan. You need a direction and the willingness to move. The bridge between who you are and who you want to be is not built in your mind. It's built with your hands, your voice, your steps. You already have what it takes. Not because it's easy, but because you are capable of doing hard things. So go. Write the first sentence. Press the first button. Build the first brick. Let today be the day you start. Not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. Every movement matters. Every decision builds. Every act compounds. Start now, because nothing breaks fear like action. Part 4. This is your sign. Let's stop pretending we have forever. Let's stop telling ourselves that someday is a plan. Someday is not a day of the week. Someday doesn't show up on the calendar. The truth is brutal but necessary. Most people never start. Not because they're lazy, but because they're afraid. Afraid of being seen starting small. Afraid of what people might think. Afraid that they'll discover they're not as capable as they hoped. But here's the secret. Everyone feels that way. The ones who succeed are not the ones who are fearless. They're the ones who move forward anyway. This is your sign. Right now. These words. This moment. This heartbeat. This breath. You've been waiting for permission. For clarity. For a message. This is it. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not too broken or too scattered. You are becoming. Every scar, every setback, every sleepless night was preparing you for this. For now, let's talk about what starting really looks like. It doesn't look like fireworks. It looks like resistance, discomfort, doubt. But it also looks like honesty, courage, awakening. The first time you speak your truth. The first time you write the thing you're scared to share. The first time you take yourself seriously. It's awkward, unpolished, but it's yours. It's real. And that's where the magic begins. The world is full of people who never gave themselves a chance, who buried their gifts under shame and silence. You don't have to be one of them. You don't need to build the whole dream today. You just need to stop running from it. Because the longer you run, the louder the inner ache becomes. That feeling? It's your soul reminding you that you're meant for more. More than survival. More than just existing. More than scrolling through the lives of people who had the courage to begin. You are not here to spectate your own life. You are here to shape it. So here's the truth. If you don't begin, no one can do it for you. And if you do begin, no one can take that away. This is your sign. To stop waiting. To stop playing small. To stop apologizing for dreaming. This is your permission slip to move. Because once you move, everything shifts. It won't be easy. It won't be quick. But it will be worth it. Your path won't be perfect. But it will be powerful. You'll learn to fall and get back up. You'll learn to rest, but not to quit. You'll discover strength you didn't know lived in you. There is no more waiting. No more excuses. No more hiding behind, "I'm not ready." The truth is, you are never ready. And that's exactly why you must begin. Today. Not next year. Not next Monday. Not when you feel brave. Now. Because this version of you, the one with doubts and dreams, scars and hope, is exactly who needs to start. You don't need a new version of yourself to begin. You become that version by beginning. This is your sign. Let me make this simple. Here are 3 things you can do today before this day ends that will change everything. 1. Write it down. Whatever it is. The dream. The idea. The project. Stop holding it in your mind. Put it on paper. Give it shape. Make it real. 2. Tell someone. Not everyone. Just one person. Tell them what you're going to do. Not for approval, but for accountability. Speaking your goal makes it tangible. Saying it out loud means you're taking ownership. 3. Do the first thing. Not everything, just the first. One page, one call, one sketch, one plan. Begin. Not next year. Not when the fear is gone. Not when you're ready, but today. While your heart is still pounding. While the fire is still warm. While the dream is still fresh in your hands. You might be thinking, but what if I mess up? You will. What if I fail? You might. What if people judge me? Some will. But what if you fly? What if this is the moment you look back on as the day everything changed? What if, 10 years from now, your future self is whispering to you right now, please start. Because here's the truth no one tells you. The pain of starting is temporary. But the pain of regret, that lasts forever. One day you'll wish you could go back to today. To this version of yourself. The one with doubts, but also with possibility. The one with fear, but also with fire. The one who hadn't begun yet, but still could. Don't waste this version of you. You have one life, one shot, one chance to show up fully. Don't live it as a shadow. Don't shrink to fit someone else's comfort. Don't hide your gift because of your wounds. There is power in beginning. There is pride in trying. There is glory in rising again. And there is greatness waiting for you, but only on the other side of action. You are not the first to feel fear. You are not the only one who has fallen. But you can be one of the few who decide to rise anyway. That's what separates stories we tell from lives we live. So say it one last time with me. I don't have to be great to start, but I have to start to become great. Let that sentence live in you. Let it echo in your chest when you wake up. Let it guide your feet when they hesitate. Let it hold you steady when the voices of doubt return. Because they will. Fear doesn't vanish. Resistance doesn't disappear. But neither does your strength. Neither does your fire. Neither does your power to choose. And every time you choose to begin again, even shaking, even scared, you grow. This is not about perfection. This is about permission. This is not about massive leaps. This is about consistent steps. This is not about being great today. It's about starting anyway. Your dream isn't fragile. It's waiting. Your future isn't distant. It's already knocking. You don't need to be chosen. You need to choose yourself. You don't need more time. You need more truth. And the truth is, you are enough. As you are. With your cracks and flaws and fire and pain. You are not behind. You are right on time. So begin. Right now. While your heart still believes. This is your sign. And it's time.